friends! Today we are going to be reading What Will the Weather Be? So let's see what the weather will be. The sky was gray and cloudy over Washington, D.C. the morning of March 9th, 1999. The weather forecast called for an inch or two of snow. But by noon there was so much snow on the ground that many cars and buses were stuck in it. The airports had to close down, so did the schools. In all, 8 inches of snow fell on the city. The weather forecast was wrong, and the people were not prepared for a huge storm. Weather forecasts tell us what kind of weather is coming, but predicting the weather is hard to do. It is easy to see what the weather is like right now. You can go outside and look. Is the air warm or cold? You can go outside. Is it windy or still? Is the sky clear or is it covered with dark clouds? Whatever the weather is like, it often stays that way for days at a time. But sometimes something happens when wind begins to blow, air from somewhere else moves in. Sometimes the cooler air from the north, sometimes it's warmer air from the south. The new air pushes against the old air. The place where this happens is called a front. Most changes in weather occur along fronts. Where cold air pushes against warm air, we say there is a cold front. Cold fronts move fast. They can make the wind howl. They quickly push warm air up and out of the way. The rising air carries water. The water is not liquid. It is a gas called water vapor. As the air rises, it cools and the water vapor turns to liquid. High in the sky, the drops of liquid water clump together and make clouds. Wow! The clouds grow bigger and darker and more air rises and it rains. There may be thunder and lightning. If it is cold enough, snow falls, and if all that happens very fast, cold fronts cause sudden storms, but they usually do not last long. After a cold front passes, the sky clears and the weather is colder. Where warm air pushes against cold air, a warm front appears. Or a warm front forms. Warm fronts move slowly. They make the wind blow just a little wispy clouds over the sky. There may be light showers or it may drizzle for a couple of days. Warm fronts change weather slowly. After a warm front passes, the skies clears and the weather is warmer. Meteorologists, people who study the weather, try to predict whether fronts will form. They measure the temperature in the air at different places around the earth. They find out where the warm air is and where the cold air is. The thermometer measures temperatures. They watch to see where the air moves. They measure how fast it is going. A wind vane tells from what direction the wind blows. An anemometer measures the wind speed. Meteorologists also measure the amount of water vapor, humidity in the air. Water vapor is what makes the air feel damp or humid. Lots of water vapor rises from the ocean. That's why the air along the coastline feels humid. Another thing meteorologists measure is air pressure. It's hard to imagine, but air has weight, and all of this weight presses on the earth. It presses on everything, even you. Hundreds of pounds of air pressure against your body at all times. You can't even feel it because air inside your body pushes out with the same force. Air inside the basketball pushes out too. You can bounce the ball when it has air in it, but when it But what happens when you take the air out? The basketball flattens. It collapses from the weight outside of the air. You cannot feel the air pressure, and you cannot tell when it changes. But it does. Sometimes it is high and sometimes it is low. As the air pressure changes, the weather changes. When air pressure is low, air rising into the sky, water vapor in the air turns to liquid in cloud form. As more air rises, the pressure gets lower and lower, and the clouds get bigger and darker. Lots of rain or snow may fall when air pressure is low. Luckily, the air pressure is high most of the time. When air pressure is high, air is sinking towards the earth. The sky stays mostly clear. A few puffy clouds may appear, but it won't rain. The weather is dry and sunny when air pressure is high. Meteorologists measure the air pressure from the whole earth. They find the highs and the lows. They measure the temperatures and the humidity of the air. They see where the air is warm or cold, damp or dry. They measure the speed and direction of the wind, and they take their measurements over the oceans, over the land. Throughout the day, the measurements are sent to the National Weather Service in Maryland, where huge computers plot the measurements on maps. The maps show the temperature, humidity, and pressure of the air around the world. Arrows on the map mark the directions of the winds. Cold fronts and warm fronts show where storms are forming. Meteorologists everywhere study the maps to forecast weather for tomorrow and the next day. They need to know what is happening hundreds and hundreds of miles away. They need to know what kind of air is coming. Then they can make their forecasts. Weather forecasts are sent to the radio and television stations. They are printed in the newspaper, and the forecasts tell us what kind of air is coming and what kind of weather to expect. They may all call for warm and sunny days, or they may tell us to prepare for snow and strong winds. They warn farmers when a frost is coming. They help us decide whether our schools and airports should be closed down. Changes in weather are not always predictable, so not all the forecasts are right. Sometimes meteorologists tell us to take our umbrellas when we don't need them. Other times they say we won't need a jacket when we do. Meteorologists today know more about the weather than ever before, and usually we can depend on their forecasts when we're wondering, what will the weather be? The end. Thanks for reading. What will the weather be, friends? We'll see you next time. Bye.